In this video, I thought I'd have a bit of a talk about how my channel has been evolving, what my original intentions were, how it's actually panned out, and where I see it heading in the future. Now, it is flexible, so if you've got any thoughts, ideas, perhaps tell me what I've done good, bad, or even put in some input about things you'd like to see me talk about in future videos. Now, I have some notes, so I will be referring to those as I go along. Yes, so I originally started taking this channel seriously in late 2018, and I began a presentational style of making videos, and pretty much that's what I've been doing. Over the last 3.5 years, with it now being May 2022, I've gained 100. I'm up to 144 subscribers. Given that YouTube doesn't pay you any revenue from ads or that sort of thing until you're up to 1,000 subscribers, I'm a bit off the mark at the moment. You also need 4,000 hours of viewing in the last 12 months. I think I've got about 700. So that's kind of on track. Probably going to bring that up about 6 or 7 times more. But the subscribers would like to push that a bit harder, because that's probably, I suppose it's something similar. Yeah, what have we got? 14? Yeah, about 7. But anyway, at the rate it's going, I might have to wait about another 20, 25 years before I get the number of subscribers before they're paying revenue. So I've got to look into some other ideas to get things moving along a bit better. Yeah, so my original intention was to make videos about anything that I felt like at the time, but I do see I've got to narrow down my topics a bit better. I also had begun to think that I needed to try and look for things to discuss that would not only be something of interest now, but would still be relevant for people to be interested in 5, 10, 20 years' time. So trying to avoid current topical issues. So I have been making a lot of videos that seem to be on the one issue because things keep developing with it. And if you've been watching the channel, you would know that this started in late 2019 when I began talking about these girls and young women who disappeared in the late 1970s and a little bit into the 80s. Because a strike force had been set up and they had a person of interest. So that's Strikeforce Arapaima, the person of interest being Warren McCorriston. And there have been ongoing developments with that, and I keep reporting on those issues. I would like to move on from that. Anyway, while I'm on that topic, I have recently come across a lot of old media information, mainly newspapers, uh, particularly from the 90s and early 2000s, that give a lot more information on the backgrounds of the victims, uh, as well as the circumstances around their disappearances, the conclusions that the police came to on some of these previous strike forces, particularly Strikeforce Fenwick in the late 90s, as to the disappearances of some of the alleged victims, I should say. There's also a lot more detail about some of the other suspects that were previously there, who may still be suspects. I can't be sure of that. So I have thought in the near future I may make a series of videos where each video pretty much just focuses on one victim, and I'll go into a bit more detail about the background of that victim or alleged victim. This will include circumstances about their disappearance and the possibility of suspects for that disappearance. I may even include a couple of alleged victims who I haven't previously discussed, and this would probably include Gordana Katevsky in 1994, because she is part of the current Strikeforce Arapaima. But I will generally focus on the late 1970s, early 1980s. I'll move on now. In April last year, 2021, I did make a new introductory video where I did discuss a list of topics that I would cover. Now, I will go through those. I'll try and narrow those down a bit so we have a bit more clear idea of where I'm looking at the direction of this channel. But I will take input and that may modify it a bit. So first of all, I listed real crime stories. So that's what I've just been discussing then. I do think I will continue with that, but I might move on to other crimes, more historical, and I will focus on using media reports, particularly newspapers, maybe some television, as the basis for discussing those crimes. As many people will know, they're not always accurate newspaper reports, but it will give some feel of what was happening at the time. The next thing I listed was historical films and photos. Now, I recently uploaded a video which was a film my grandfather made in the early 1960s. Actually, it started in late 1959. This is one that was originally shot on standard 8mm film. I have gone through all these films and transferred them to digital in a frame-by-frame capture system, but because of the poor condition of some of those, or a lot of those films, it was jamming in the reel, so I have had to sort of do a lot of editing to get them in a viewable format, also adjusting with the brightness and colour correction to get it more viewable. So it may take me some time. I'm going to try and do those in chronological order. A lot of it will be of interest, probably more to family, but from a historical perspective, there are places that I think would be of general interest, even as a historical perspective of life at the time. In future ones, I know there is stuff from other parts of Australia, particularly the late 1960s. My grandfather did do a trip around Australia. I think it might have taken about 6 months. So there's various stuff from the outback, capital cities and various other cities from around Australia. I think I might be guessing or not even know where some things are, so it would be interesting to work out where some of that is. So I dare say it'll take me many years to get through it all. Don't worry, I won't be putting it up every week. So might be a few times a year, hopefully a bit better than that as I get more time and can be making more videos as well. It will get in the mix there. So I am thinking this channel may take on a more historical aspect. I will look into other things as well. Even from my own personal collections, as I did start shooting some Super 8 film myself in the early 1980s. It's all pretty much silent. In 1988, I got my first digital video camera, so we've got sound. Things I've shot include events in Sydney with the Australian Bicentenary, World Expo in Brisbane in 1988, and I did a bit of a trip around Queensland, so I may look into that and see what may be of interest there. There's also the 1989 earthquake in Newcastle, so I could do a bit on that. So yes, there could be a bit of a theme there with historical crimes, historical personal videos, including my grandfather's and other family. I will look into other avenues that might be of interest. So a bit of historical theme there. The next thing I mentioned was future of money. This stage I can't see that being as a big aspect, so I might cut that out. Doesn't mean I won't make something of that nature at some time, but it might be just something, a one-off or something at some stage. Unsolved Mysteries, I guess that fits in with the historical crime stuff. I might look into other mysteries as well. We'll see where that goes. Science and technology. Now, I have done a bit with DNA and biological type stuff. This was more in 2019. I think I made a few things there. Now, I do want to, at some stage, put a lot of focus on that as kind of a niche. So, I did last year create a new channel, which I've called DNA Lives Forever, where I'm going to focus on topics more related to DNA. I did think I'd have more time, but that hasn't happened as yet. So I've only put 4 videos on there. The central theme is DNA, but I'm sort of going to have a broad view. I have started with a focus on ancestral DNA tests, probably a little bit of focus on family history, looking at genetic concepts. I may have a look at different genetic diseases. That sort of leads into a focus on personalised medicine. Another interest I have, which could fit in there, is biological immortality. So that's basically being young forever kind of thing. But I mean, you'll die at some stage, whether it's an accident, disease, but the idea is you don't grow old, frail and decrepit. You sort of stay in a reasonable fitness of health. And yeah, so you may live for 100 years, you may live for a few hundred, but you're always going to have a risk of death from something. So it's not as if you're going to live for millions of years. I mean, you might be lucky you live for a few thousand, but yeah. But anyway, that's another area I'll be looking at. So I am thinking maybe the DNA Lives for channel, I'll put topics of health and maybe more a biological sort of channel, but the key focus is going to be on DNA. So if that is a particular interest of yours, I would suggest you subscribe to that channel as well. I'll try and get a few more videos up this year, but hopefully next year I'll get that channel moving along. It does have 12 subscribers at the moment, so probably okay since I haven't done much work on that channel. The main video that is getting a lot of interest on that channel relates to, what have I got? Oh yeah, I am explaining the concept of centimorgans, as that is a common measure on these ancestral DNA sites of how closely you are related to other people that have had their DNA tested. So have a look at that one. Oh yeah, so science and technology. I may make some other videos, not necessarily biological, that are in relation to that area, which I will put on this channel, but there may be some overlap, so make sure you subscribe to that other channel too. They won't be a main focus, but yeah, I'll try and keep them in there. Social justice. Yeah, that's an interest of mine. So something may crop up there. But yeah, as I said, it might be just the occasional video. Lies and statistics, yeah, that could be a few here and there on that as well. I don't see that as being a serious focus at this stage. Film and book reviews. Yes, I was going to do a bit more on that. Yeah, I haven't really done any of that so far, but I'll keep that in mind. Perhaps if I read an interesting book, I'll put that up. And films as well. Unboxings. Yes, I've done some of those. I've actually filmed a few over the last, particularly over the last year, which I haven't gotten around to editing and uploading. So you might see a few more of those in the near future. Some of them relate to Apple products, and I better get onto those because they'll probably be obsolete soon, if not already. Short films. Yes, when I get some more time, I'd actually like to make some short films. And when I do, I'll upload those and they might be of interest. But yeah, I don't see it being like a weekly or monthly thing, but yeah, I might hopefully at some stage get to the point of making at least one a year. Random items of interest. Oh yeah, something random may crop up, but yeah. How-do videos, haven't made any of those. Yeah, it may not be something I get to. So, yeah, as you can see, my main focus is probably going to be on historical type stuff. I'd be looking more at, 20th century, not necessarily going back hundreds or thousands of years, but, something might perk up my interest and I may go back a bit further, but yeah, generally be looking at probably late 20th century. So for example, what I've been doing over the last couple of years with these disappearances of the girls and young women in the late 70s, 80s, that's a kind of historical thing, my grandfather's films. So yeah, and maybe some stuff I find in books, so that could fit in with my book reviews. And maybe old films. So yeah, I could do all that. So yep, a few random things I might put in, short films, the unboxing, so I see that as where I'm heading. If you've got any other ideas or particular interests, say in those areas that you'd like me to talk about, then I'm happy to get some suggestions. Some other things I'm thinking of putting, maybe in relation to some of my hobbies and interests. For example, in the past, I have done some singing. Um, I was thinking of having some singing lessons. I've been putting that off. Later this year, I'm going to have some operations on my vocal cords because I've had some issues with that. I've had some issues with those. I may discuss those on my other channel, The DNA Lives Forever. There is some genetics involved with that, in relation to the growths I've had in the past. My voice does wear out and get strained easily, so need a little bit of work there. But hopefully I'll be taking up some singing lessons next year, and maybe I'll put up some singing, might make some video clips of my singing. But if you don't want to hear my singing, you can also put that in the suggestions, and maybe I'll put it on another channel, create a new channel. And that's another point. There may be something that I particularly want to focus on and could spin that off into another channel. So I've given you a bit to think about there with the direction I may be taking with this channel. I would like your input, it would be helpful, so make some comments if you can tell me about what's been good, bad, what you'd like to see, any thoughts, ideas. Yep, definitely put it in the comments. If you haven't subscribed, I would suggest you do so. And also click on the bell to be notified when I upload future videos. Have a good one, and I'll see you around like a rissole.